with the technical side of things, there's also, Alex, like I said, you raced Cactus Cup before this, which was, I believe, a short track and XCO-ish, and then or an XC marathon, and then it was like an enduro format. So 3 days of racing, but this was like really high intensity XCO racing. How did you get used to the race intensity again? Because that is something that you can train and really do intense training and knock all that out. But it's different when somebody else is serving it to you dynamically in combination with cross country racing, because the course is also serving it to you, because you have to put out 500 watts just to get up something a lot of the time. Yeah. So how did you do anything in training, or did you do anything psychologically or physically to prepare yourself for the race intensity?
In training, we definitely threw in some more anaerobic style work. I think race intensity is always just a little bit of a baptism by fire. It's just you kind of go and do it because it's not up to you. This course was a really unique one in terms of, like, I think the longest climb was probably just over a minute kind of thing. So it's like everything is pretty much anaerobic when you're racing. And like the way it is like short track, for example, there was one main like 40-ish second climb, and it was right after you descend. So it's like everybody's lined out. So it's like even if you're 10th wheel, you're probably already 5 seconds, 7 seconds back as you hit that climb. And it's like, it's an interesting way to race because no matter how good you are, if everybody's going flat out, there's no way you're putting 7 seconds on the best guys in the nation kind of thing. So it's like, there's a little bit of a strategy there. Like, where can I make up this time that other people may be easing up? And like I experienced this the second time around short track, is I felt good, legs were there, but I couldn't move up because there was no lull at the front. That's kind of what you're betting on, right? Like, it's like, I'm going to go hard and then punch it over the top. And then the front group's going to look at each other and I'm going to make contact. And so it's kind of a little bit out of your hands, but as far as like the intensity piece, it's just like, it is what it is. And you kind of have to just get back used to someone else prescribing your intervals.
Yeah, Pete held up his arm a little while ago, and you can see it. Pete, show the viewers on YouTube, and I'll explain. But Pete's in a removable cast, broken scaphoid, because he and I went out. Well, actually, had nothing to do with this. It was the after party that actually broke it.
The after party.
Yeah. But to try to get used to race intensity, because a lot of people listen to this, racing is coming back in a lot of areas for different people. So if you're in this area, this is one thing that Pete and I did. We went to a trail, like a loop, and that loop is far away from where like a high density of riders would be. So it's like a safer spot to be riding at race pace on the trails. There's not a lot of athletes out there. It's a little higher up on the mountain, so to speak, right? So we found a loop that was kind of like a cross-country Olympic loop. And then I had Pete ride the e-bike, and he didn't put it in eco mode. He put it in trail mode. And then there's boost on top of that, but he's in trail mode. And then my goal was to not lose Pete's wheel, but Pete also, you had to do some like, how did you gauge that, Pete? Because you didn't just pedal all out, or else I would have been gone.
No, and that's what we did the way up the mountain. We kind of did like a 45-minute long climb in eco, and that was probably me doing endurance pace, but it was a lot more up to me to decide the pace. And with trail in the middle setting, I had a lot more leeway because the power was pretty consistent across.
Watts.
Yeah, I think it felt like 200 watts. So most of the time I could add, and I weigh a lot more than Jonathan, so I could add a couple 100 watts and it would feel like I'm staying within kind of John's realm of what he can stay in contact with. And but it was really interesting. Having the consistent power was nice, but it was more the kind of the extra snap over the top of things and out of corners and stuff like that was much more painful to you, right, John?
Oh my gosh, it's so bad. It hurts so bad. If you want to see this, by the way, let us know in the YouTube chat or in the YouTube comments below, because we did record this with GoPros. We could find some like interesting points where we start to see where I start to explode. You'll be able to hear it. I'm like gross panting into the microphone because I have the GoPro on my bars. But I wanted to have something where I wasn't dictating the pace, and that snap over the top of hills or out of turns or through steep sections, that sort of thing that you're subject to when somebody is faster than you in a race. and they're fresher than you and they can just sprint right up that thing, even though you're right on the limit. That's the experience that I wanted to have. I lasted for 50 minutes and then I tapped out. It was so hard because it's like you can't, and you'll see even in the recording, I never dropped below sweet spot. So for 50 minutes, I was sweet spot or I was punching up to like 600 watts with my FTP around 320 right now. So like, that's just like, that's a really hard 50 minutes. It was painful, really difficult. But it was a great way to try to, just because right now it's tough to be able to go to a bunch of smaller races because the smaller races actually aren't happening. It's the bigger ones coming back. But it was super helpful. E-pacing, I guess we call it,
Yeah.
behind Pete. It's fun.
It was also nice that we found a technical sort of descent or medium technical descent that took some effort and some pedaling. So you didn't even get to recover during the downhills. And once we were actually flying, the downhills only took 2.5 minutes, right? Isn't that what we timed it at?
Yeah.
So out of the 15 or 20 minute loop, 2.5 minutes was descending, which is not enough if you're already on the limit, right?
And when you're descending, like you said, it requires focus, right? Like you could lose a front end at any point because it's really kind of slick and blown out. And there's like jumps and berms and you're pedaling out of each one of them and stuff. And you made me pedal really hard out of each one of them. So there's a lot of different ways though. It's effectively the same principle as motor pacing, right? That a lot of people would do, but that's on the mountain bike side of things. But whether it's fast group rides or anything else, I do want to let everybody know that's excited and looking forward to racing, that you can find different ways to be able to familiarize yourself with it to some degree, like Alex did, incorporating more anaerobic efforts within his training, tons of different things you can do to get to that. Cause you don't want to show up and just be like, all right, guys, sweet spot for 2 hours. Let's do this, because that will not happen. People will ride at whatever pace they want. So yeah,
I've heard requests that you guys need to take your turbo bike to California and we need to have round 2.
That would be fun, right? Yeah, that would be awesome. Although Alex, we'd have to put you on a slow bike somehow, like an extra slow.
Can you ride your trail bike?
Yeah, we can put him on the Duro and on the S Works Enduro, right?
And then he can try and keep up.
That would work. Yeah. Even then he'll still be able to keep up. Did you do anything unique with your equipment, Alex? So this is like, once again, kind of like rainy-ish and sloppy-ish at times and kind of slippery. And also the terrain isn't like a bunch or long sustained climbs, but a bunch of rolling climbs. I don't know if you did anything different with equipment, but it could be interesting to discuss that.
Yeah, I was running some special tires. Wink, wink. Go take a look on Insta if you want a little sneak peek.
And that's Alex Wild MTB on Instagram, by the way. You can follow him there.
As far as like changing my traditional bike setup, I kept everything the same in terms of pressure and rebound. That felt good. I did run my brain both front and rear 1 click out. And what that does is makes it a little softer off the top and kind of, it essentially makes your sag a little more on the brain setup. So what that did for me is it kind of, there was not really a smooth section on the course. And then I traditionally tend to do all my effort seated most of the time when it is smooth. So I'm not really losing any efficiency there, but just kind of gives you a little more safety on the descents. And then, like Jonathan said, there was a key section that was actually a climbing rock garden, and it kind of just allows you to more like float up it rather than getting bucked by those rocks. I ran higher tire pressure overall, but also a bigger gap between front and rear. There were a lot of G-out sections that you tend to be very rear heavy. So what I did to protect against blowing out a tire there is I ran higher pressure in the rear than I would, but also like I normally run a 2 PSI difference front and rear, and I was running a 4 PSI difference in the race. So I was running 1822 on 235 tires.
And no inserts, right?
No inserts for me. Orange seal, obviously. So trust there, but and then I ran ice friction chain, which I always do when I'm racing. So that's a wax chain. I've talked about it before. Just an efficiency piece, just saves some watts. And beyond that, everything was as I train. I try to change things as minimally as possible, kind of across the board, nutrition wise. Like that's why I have pancakes before every key workout. Like pretty much an interval session is the same for me as race day. That's another thing I was thinking of when you were asking, did you like refamiliarization with race intensity? If people aren't like doing their race setup for training, I would suggest it a couple times, just kind of running through, like I've definitely gotten to the start line and been like, I didn't have any coffee, stuff like that. It's kind of like if you're trying to like do certain things like, okay, eat this and then, this is your setup, try doing that in training first, because then you'll miss something in training. You'll be, okay, I won't do that on race day. Again, like a cognitive load thing, like on race day, you're everywhere. So just having that routine dialed is super helpful.
Yeah, that's because then that allows you to reduce the panic or cognitive load you might feel when you jump back into that new race, right?
If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.
If you think I have better hair than Jonathan, give it a thumbs up. If not, leave a comment.
My hair is better than his.